Well, riders, we are only a few days away from the final stop on my tour of PA meet and greet rides. And so I want to get a couple things done here with the X4 before that day arrives. Now, hopefully I'm going to have Mighty Mouse back together here. I'm just waiting on my lower A-arms to come back from Joe after he extended them an inch or so to make up for the difference in model years. So I'm hoping to take this guy on Friday and run it through the paces with the long travel, the big 32-inch Blackwaters. But then Saturday, I got the whole crew pretty much going with me, so I'm going to take the X4 and I want to do a couple things with it, just kind of play around with it a little bit. And the main thing I want to do is kind of play around with the sway bars. And I get a lot of people and see a lot of questions on Facebook groups and stuff asking about the sway bars. Should I leave it be? Should I unhook it? What's the advantages of unhooking it? And if there are advantages, why are they even on there? So I'm going to try to answer those a little bit here today. But just in case you guys don't know, the Wolverine, the X2, the X4 comes with both front and rear sway bars. And the sway bar is this little doohickey here. You can see it attaches to the upper A-arm on the one side. There's a bar that runs the whole way across. And then it attaches to the opposite A-arm on the other side. And pretty much the whole reason for sway bars is for stability. So how these work is, what it basically does is ties this side of the suspension in with this side. And so with the sway bar there, when you're going around a turn sharp and your body begins to roll, and this side begins to pick up, that sway bar then kind of ties that side into this side. So once it gets up to a certain point, then it's just like you're also trying to lift up this side, which is where all your center of gravity is going to be shifting when this side's lifting up. So it helps to keep this side down, helps keep it planted. Now that is a very, very good thing on your high-end sport machines where you're going 50, 60 plus miles an hour and you're taking sharp turns at speed and you want to stay good and planted. However, on a trail machine like this where high speed is not so much a factor, then there are benefits to removing it. Now, one of the first things I did to my Pioneer 500 was to take the sway bar off. It only had one on the rear, but just taking that sway bar off alone made a big, big improvement in the ride of this little guy, especially when from the factory, the short A-arms of it being only 50 inches and you only have about 5.5 inches of travel. The ride was very harsh, even especially with the stock shocks. Taking that sway bar off gives you a little bit more articulation to soften the ride. So that's one of the first benefits of taking the sway bar off, is it does allow both sides to move more independently and give you a lot more travel in your suspension. So since we are hitting Rock Run, which I've already been to, I kind of know what the terrain is, I'm going to remove just the front sway bar. I want to keep the rear on for time being because you guys have seen my videos. You guys know I do like to rip in this pretty fast. So I don't want to lose all my stability just yet, so we're just going to start with the front sway bar. We're going to take that off, give us a little bit more articulation, just to play around, experiment, so then I can come back to you guys and say what kind of difference it makes. Now, because I am going to lose a little bit of stability when I unhook the sway bar, I am going to widen this guy out a little bit, and I'm going to do that with some wheel spacers. So RB3 Off-Road here hooked me up with some wheel spacers. They gave me a couple different sizes here. They gave me their 1-inch spacers, and then we also have 2-inch spacers and under here. So as you can see, these come packaged very well. They're nice, lightweight, heavy-duty, super strong spacers. They come with new lug nuts and everything. So we're going to play around and see. We may end up putting both these on. We may put the 2-inch on the front and the 1-inch on the back, because I do believe from the factory, I know it's hard to tell, but if I were to measure, the back is out about 1 inch more than the front. So that'll get us close to being even there to do it that way. And these wheel spacers, they make inch and a half and 2-inch, I believe. These, of course, are 4 on 110 bolt patterns, so they'll work for both the Wolverine here and a Mighty Mouse if I so desire to put some spacers on there later. And they also make spacer adapters, which will take you from, like, say, a 4 on 10 bolt pattern to the more popular 4 on 136. which that gives you more options then in running aftermarket wheels when you can switch like that. So the first thing let's do is get this sway bar off. It might be a little difficult with the winch here, because I can get to the one bolt here. I don't know if I can get up to the bolt up there. We'll have to see. I may, for time being, just unhook it, zip tie it up out of the way till I determine if I'm going to keep it or not, which that's probably what we're going to do. We'll go ahead and take our sway bar link off, leave the sway bar, find some place where we can zip tie it out of the way for the ride on Saturday, and then depending on the outcome, results of that, we'll determine whether we're going to actually pull the whole thing off or not. So that's the plan for this video. Let's get busy. And of course, because my machines do see a lot of mud and water, my bolts are already starting to rust. I'm going to hit them with a little PB blast here. Oh, can I get into that one? Oh, I missed! So to loosen these sway bar links, you can't just simply take a wrench and put on there and start wrenching, because what will happen is you'll actually spin the whole thing. So what you have to do is, if you notice here in the end of the bolt, it's actually made for an Allen head. So you have to get an Allen head in here to keep that from spinning, and then you can get a wrench on here on the inside. Now if you have an impact, you might be able to zip that off with the impact. I broke my little socket adapter for my impact, so I'm down to hand tools. But that should work. Now this is what size? A 5, an H5 Allen, and then 17-inch or 17mm bolt for this nut. So let's see if we can't get her off. Alright guys, we got the one side free. I'm going to see if I can't weasel in here and get into this one to get this one loose. Otherwise, I'll just zip tie that fast right there for time being, and then zip tie it up out of the way, because once the other side's off, this should not move if we secure it to something. So we'll see if I can get this one off and go to the other side. Alright, so I did decide I'm going to go ahead and take this whole thing off instead of trying to fight to get these links off, and try to find some place to strap this up where it's going to be out of the way. So it is, in order to take the sway bar clear out, is a 12mm bolt that holds it in here. There you see there's this little rubber grommet in here. I know it's dark as I'm filming. I'll try to lighten it up when I go to edit so you can see this better. Zoom in a little bit. But there's one here and one there. If you have a winch on, it's going to be a little bit tricky. You're going to have to use an actual wrench to get in there. If you don't have a winch, you should be able to get right in there with a socket and driver with no problem. And then there's other two bolts that hold the top of that. I know it's super dark in here. Let me get a light. Light, glorious light. You can see right there's the top, and right there's the other one, so we'll be able to just reach an arm in here and get that guy, and then that should come loose. Alright, now that we have this guy all loose, hopefully we can weasel it out of there. Uh-oh, but I bet you, let's get these brackets off. I bet you my winch wire is going to get in the way. I may have to take that guy off at the very least. This will be the trickiest part to removing a sway bar, is weaseling it out of the machine. I don't think it would be bad without a winch. And if it wasn't for this winch wire, yeah, I'm going to have to take my one winch wire off. That won't be too bad. Alright, get that out of the way. Let's see if I can't finagle this guy up past my winch. I can get these rubber bushings off. Give them a little more clearance. So, sway bar removed. You don't have to take a wheel off, you don't have to take a spring off, you don't have to take a bumper or our winch off. we were able to weasel her out of there. Probably what I'm going to do so I don't lose them is go ahead and stick all my bolts back in the holes and tighten them up snug. They don't know where they're at.
Right.
Alright, now we got the sway bar off. I'm going to go ahead and jack up the front of the X4. We're going to pull the tire off. And we're going to throw these spacers on real quick. Now for anyone out there who might not know what wheel spacers are, what their purpose is, basically all they are is a big slab of metal. And how these will attach is you have your factory wheel studs here. These will go over top, and then these simply will get installed with your factory lug nuts. And then what that does then is it spaces out your wheel however much the thickness of your spacers are. So then the wheel will go over top. Wheel spacers, these RB3 ones come with new lug nuts then for on top. And that's basically all there is to it. RB3 recommends using a little blue thread locker, so we're going to go ahead and do that before we attach this, and it should be that simple. Now I do have more than one reason for putting these spacers on besides just extending this out a little, my wheelbase out a little bit to give me more stability now that I took the sway bar off. I'm also wanting to throw the 27-inch tires that I had on the 500 on this guy, and I just want to do it rims and all. I'm probably not going to run these a whole lot, but maybe just for this trip to try them out. Now the stock X4 does come with these 26-inch tires, and you may think that an inch doesn't make much of a difference here. But if I hold these up here side by side and kind of give you, as best as I can here one-handed, let me see here, there we go, get them straight up and down. You can see there, hopefully it's not all washed out, there is quite a bit of difference here in the height of these tires. These ones are definitely, the ones off the 500 are definitely more than an inch taller than the ones that came on the X4. So we're going to go ahead and run this for this meet and greet ride, see how it handles them. And the reason why I have to run the spacer in order to put these guys on here is our center hub hole from our Honda rims, although our bolt pattern's the same, this is smaller, and our hub nut here sticks out too far for these just to bolt right on without running spacers. And yes, they don't look as nice as the factory Yamaha ones, but again, this is just kind of an experiment here. We're going to go ahead and throw these guys on and run for the weekend. Alright guys, we got the front all buttoned up, the wheels are back on, tires inflated a little bit. We're going to move on here to the back. Again, just a quick little comparison here in size. Again, going by the numbers, we're going with the 26-inch that was stock on the X4 to the 27-inch that I had on the Pioneer 500, which is actually the stock tires off my Pioneer 1000. And there is probably a little more than an inch difference in there. So I think these will work. Even though my treads wore down a little more and I'm running tubes in these guys, I think we'll be good running these. We're not going to get in, I don't think, a whole lot of deep mud at Rock Run. This looks pretty deep over here. But I said there's something we got to do here at the back, and here's what it is. As you guys can see, we're only going to run 1-inch spacers here on the back because that'll get us out about even. And Yamaha's factory lug nuts, you can see they're these big long things. Well, when they're installed, they stick out way too far, and that's not going to allow you to get your wheel on there. Now these, I don't know if I mentioned this, these spacers I actually got from my 500 up there, which we're going to end up putting these on there. This is just kind of playing around again. So what I had to do is just go and outsource some open-end lug nuts that will recess back in. That'll work for us and allow us to run these. I got these at AutoZone. What are they? These studs are what, 12 by 1 1/4, so 12 millimeter by 1.25 millimeter, and they will work for us. And once they're tight and they'll be in flush, we'll be able to mount our wheel. Well, I think what I'm going to end up doing is switching those spacers around. I didn't really realize this at the time, but these Honda rims, if you look at the offset here compared to the Yamaha ones really have a deeper offset, or I guess it would be technically a more negative offset than the Honda ones. And so what's that equating to is my fronts, I don't know if you can tell, are sticking out a lot farther than the back by about an inch. So if I'm wanting to run these tires, I'm going to probably have to switch it around and put the 2-inch back here and the 1-inch up there. So I'm going to do that here, and as quick as a snap, and we'll see how she looks that way. There, that's much better. We look to be almost right even. So those 1-inch on the front, 2-inch on the back was perfect to use with these Honda rims and tires. Sweetness! Well, alright, there she is, all done. Spacers all installed. 27-inch tires on 12-inch Honda rims on there and looking good on the Yamaha. That's nice that the two companies can play nicely together and exchange parts like that, isn't it? Again, as you can see, I think my wheel is cocked a little bit to the side, but running the 2-inch on the back and the 1-inch on the front pretty much evened us out with these Honda rims that are a different offset. So that worked out perfectly. I do have a couple more things I've got to do to this before the ride on Saturday. One being adjust the preload on my shocks up. I've been running them long enough now. I've got several hundred miles on them, and they have sagged a little bit as springs will do. They've kind of settled. And you can, I don't know how well you can tell from the camera picture, but we are sagging a little bit. I need to adjust them up. My tires are kicked in a little bit this way because she's sagging a little bit. So I'm going to wash it first. Actually, guys, I know, don't be surprised. I'm going to wash my machine off before I work on it. But you notice I didn't before I put the wheel spacers in. So my reputation still upholds. But anyway, that's just a matter of turning the preload down. You can see I got tons of thread here, so should be able to do it. No problems. The back's what needs it the worst. Again, I don't know how well you can see with the camera, but the rear wheels are really kicked in and have really sagged, so we're going to crank her up a little bit. Give me just a touch more ground clearance. And then I have one more box of goodies to install on this guy, which I need after my trip to Mountain Ridge. But I think I'm going to make that a whole separate video, because I know there'll be guys that's interested in just that as kind of a how-to and a review of that, so we're going to do that. And then on Saturday as I ride, I'll probably do a little bit of commentary as how this guy's doing without the sway bar, how it handles at high speed, is it doing better off-road at slow speeds, going over rocks and what have you. And then I'll probably do a separate video just on reviewing my thoughts on running this guy without the front sway bar. Again, we still have the back. I'm probably not going to mess with the back unless you guys want me to. If you want me to take off the rear as well to do some testing, see how it handles, make sure you let me know in the comments below, and I will do that for you guys. But I think we'll be good to go on Saturday. I think just a little bit of a wider stance is going to really help, and I bet you I am not going to regret taking the sway bar off at all, and she's probably going to go to the scrap pile. So thanks for liking, commenting, subscribing, hanging out with me here as we do a little bit of work on the Wolverine X4. And until next time, keep on riding.